Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Kabbalat Shabbat on this another hot day. Today we have Robert, who's going to lead us, and hopefully we're going to see him this week. I can see him already, so hopefully that will stay. And we have Morris, who's back from Israel. Welcome to you. And Morris is going to start now with a Devar Torah. Okay, over to Morris.
Right. Much of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is about land. There's a strong Jewish, Christian, and indeed Muslim ties to this region. There's one particular parcel of land that is fraught with history, symbolism, and meaning, not just to Jews, but to people around the world. It's a trapezoidal-shaped esplanade that is the most sensitive 37 acres in Israel, maybe even in the world. Its prominent icon is the Dome of the Rock, sitting above the foundation stone, which many believe is where the Holy of Holies was located. On the southern edge of the plaza is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. One of the retaining walls surrounding the Temple Mount is the Western Wall, the Kotel. On any given day, pilgrims from all over the world come to Jerusalem looking for God, or at least some sort of spiritual experience. Within walking distance of the Temple Mount are Mount Zion, the Mount of Olives, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Via Dolorosa, Salome's Pool, and Hezekiah's Tunnel, and other sites associated with the Bible. With so many holy and historic sites, why is the Temple Mount the one place that arouses so much passion? Jewish ties to the Temple Mount run deep. Traditionally, the Temple Mount is considered the holiest spot in the world, the site of both King Solomon's Temple, circa 957 BCE, and Zerubbabel's, circa 516 BCE. Ground zero would be the Holy of Holies, the temple's inner sanctum, which the high priest entered only once a year. The Temple Mount's holiness is so transcendent that many observant Jews will not go there while in a state of ritual impurity. This complicates efforts to strengthen Jewish ties to the Temple Mount. The foundation stone, which is underneath the Dome of the Rock, is assumed by many to be the spot where the Ark of the Covenant sat inside the Holy of Holies, and amongst other events was the spot where Abraham prepared his son Isaac as a sacrifice, and Jacob had his dream. For Muslims, the Temple Mount is known as the Noble Sanctuary. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is Islam's third holiest site. Its prominence stems from the legend of Muhammad's night journey undertaken in 621 CE, when he flew from Mecca to Jerusalem on a winged horse, which landed atop the Western Wall, named the wall the Wall of Barak, the name of his horse. The legend has it that Muhammad led prayers and then ascended to heaven from the foundation stone before returning to Mecca. Christianity's historical Jewish roots make the Temple Mount a very popular pilgrimage site, and the remains of a Byzantium-era mosque circa 600 CE, found under the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the only official archaeological excavation ever undertaken there, are thought to be the remains of a church or monastery. In the days following the Six-Day War, a defense minister, Moshe Dayan, met with Jerusalem's Muslim leaders. Fearing a wider religious war, Dayan agreed to let the Jordanian-run WAF continue administering the Temple Mount. The informal status quo coming out from the meeting was as follows. Jews and non-Muslims would be allowed to visit the Temple Mount. Jews and non-Muslims visiting the Temple Mount would respect Muslim religious feelings. Jews and Muslims would not be allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. The Western Wall would be the primary place of Jewish prayer, and the WAF would oversee the daily administration of the Temple Mount, whilst Israel would retain overall sovereignty. After the war, Knesset passed the Preservation of the Holy Places Law, which ensured freedom of access and protection to holy sites under Israeli jurisdiction. The Israeli-Jordanian peace agreement in 1994 enshrined a special role for the Jordanian monarchy as the administration of Jerusalem's Muslim holy sites, including the Temple Mount. However, in a separate deal with the Palestine Liberation Organization in 1994, Jordan transferred the role of Grand Mufti, a leading religious figure, to the Palestinian leadership. The current Grand Mufti, appointed by Mohammed Abbas and receiving the PA's salary, rejects Jewish ties to the Temple Mount, specifically denying that the temple ever existed there. Spurning Jewish ties to the Temple Mount helps the Palestinians undermine Jewish claims on Jerusalem and negates the very concept of Israel as a Jewish national homeland. That's why the Palestinians value organizations such as the UN Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, passing resolutions insisting that Israel has no legal or historical claims on Jerusalem. The current WAF's denial of the existence of two Jewish temples is inconsistent with the WAF's teaching in the past. The official 1925 Supreme Muslim Council guidebook to the Temple Mount refers to the Temple of Solomon and quotes King David's role from Samuel 2:24 and 25. The site is one of the oldest in the world. Its sanctuary dates from the earliest, perhaps prehistoric times. Its identity with the site of Solomon's Temple is beyond dispute. This too is the spot, according to universal belief, in which David built there an altar unto the Lord and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. The guidebook also describes Solomon's stables by quoting Josephus. Little is known for certain about the early history of the chamber itself. It dates probably as far back as the construction of Solomon's temple. It was in existence and it was used as a place of refuge by the Jews at the time of the conquest of Jerusalem by Titus in the year 70 CE. The precise location of the temple's inner courtyards and the Holy of Holies are not certain because there are different ways to understand the Temple Mount's measurements described in the Talmud, and because the Temple Mount is significantly larger than it was when the Talmud was codified. Some rabbis encourage Jews to visit the Temple Mount to actively maintain Jewish ties to it, but to stay in areas of the plaza that are certainly not where the inner courtyard or the Holy of Holies could have been. Jewish ties to the Temple Mount have been kept alive over the centuries through a number of Jewish practices, including around the world, praying facing Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, praying facing the Temple Mount. When praying on the Temple Mount, facing the Holy of Holies. The three daily prayers include a plea for the temple's restoration, fasting and mourning on the destruction of both the temple and Tisha B'Av. The Passover Seder and Yom Kippur prayers both end with the words, "Next year in rebuilt Jerusalem," which refers to the temple. At weddings, the groom breaks a glass in remembrance of the destroyed temples. Our ties to the Temple Mount run deep. Hashana Haba Yerushalayim. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you very much indeed, Morris, for that very interesting insight. And now over to you, Robert, for